Low-key geek. Hey, he's a low-key geek. He tries to be out there when he wants to be, but hey, he's a low-key. He's a low-key geek.
Guys, happy Monday. It is Monday, May 11th, and welcome to episode 5 of the Low-Key Geek live podcast. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day if you had a chance to spend time with your mom, and if not, I hope you at least were able to chat with her over the phone, maybe a video conference or whatever the case is. Kind of hard to spend it outside in this day. The current situation that we're in now, I was able to treat my mom to a nice Italian lunch. So that was really, really nice and quiet. But it's just good to spend time with mom. So I hope wherever you guys are, you enjoyed your weekend. As for me, it was, kind of a low-key weekend, no pun intended. Kind of just relaxed. I rewatched 2 movies over the weekend. I, for some reason, was in the mood and rewatched Us and Jojo Rabbit. And, Us is still a pretty good movie, in my opinion. Jordan Peele's follow-up to Get Out, and it still proved itself to be creepy and thought-provoking at times. I mentioned in a previous show, I really enjoyed his take on the Twilight Zone as he produces that. I do have some news to follow up with that later in the show, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Jojo Rabbit is still one of my top movies that came out that year. That it came out. The performances by Scarlett Johansson and Sam Rockwell, of course Taika Waititi as the Hitler imaginary friend. And the little boys in the movie, they are still so fantastic, and I'm still in love with that little chubby kid with the glasses. That kid always gets me, and his little happy-go-lucky kind of attitude and personality, hey Jojo, I missed you, and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's such a well done movie for a story that shouldn't be fun and entertaining, but Taika really found a way to put that spin on it, to give it a lot of heart and meaning from a different point of view and perspective. So if you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, I highly recommend it. It's definitely one of I don't know if I would put it in my list of all-time movies, but it's definitely up there and in consideration of something to watch more than once, because you'll never be disappointed by it. But other than that, I had another great trivia session with 2 of my buds yesterday. Ever since this whole situation happened, we kind of went to online to kind of fulfill our bar trivia needs. We used to go play bar trivia from time to time, and now doing it online has proven to be quite fun. And I'm planning on editing the sessions, because I have been recording it and I've been meaning to put them online. So I'm looking to put them online relatively soon. And I spoke to them about trying out a new game, which is kind of like more of like a movie trivia game, something that I found at Blockbuster, at Target. I gave away the name of it, but basically it's called Blockbuster the Party Game. And basically what it is that it's like a head-to-head game where you pick a card and there's a certain topic on the card, and you have to name all the movies that fit within that topic or that genre. Each person has 50 seconds. There's a buzzer that comes along with it and keeps track of time. And whoever doesn't fulfill their answer within that 50-second allotment is knocked out of the game. So hopefully I can get to record that as well. And if the reception is there, I may think of doing it as a live game or a live stream in the future. So yeah, so let's talk about some things from the weekend. As I mentioned on Friday, SNL aired their season finale. Before I go on and further into that, as always, if at any time during the show you ever wanted to interrupt my flow with a certain topic, maybe I missed something, or maybe you wanted me to cover a certain topic, or you had a specific question, by all means, you could do so by going to the link above, streamlabs.com backslash lowkey geek 1. Your question will pop up on the screen and I will answer it immediately. For any other things, questions, comments that come through the chat, I'll reserve some time towards the end of the show and cover anything that comes in through there. If you like what you see, please do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. It really gives me a good sense that this is worth someone's attention, and it helps me out as far as being a new streamer to the streaming universe, and it'll be greatly appreciated. So SNL season finale, they really brought out some of the big talents for their final show, their final at-home show. And you could tell that they're really hoping this will be the last at-home show, so that when they come back in September, hopefully everyone can be back in the studio to do what they normally do. But obviously, you had Alec Baldwin playing his infamous Donald Trump. Kristen Wiig was the host of the evening, and she had several skits that I thought was pretty hilarious. I feel like Kristen Wiig is the type of person you wouldn't mind being stuck at home with, because she's just really goofy and entertaining, and just like a big giant goofball. And it showed. You had Martin Short in one of the skits that they were doing, and then you had Tina Fey coming back and doing a segment on Weekend Update, and basically just being the person that we all are right now, that frantic kind of like, I don't know what else to do, I'm losing my mind, I have kids, they're driving me crazy, and it was pretty funny. It had me laughing quite a bit. The big controversial skit of the show was the Let Kids Drink skit. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it ran a little bit too long, but it was really funny how they kind of it was like a PSA segment, and they were encouraging parents to let their kids drink, because if they drink, then they can knock out early in the night, and parents don't have to worry about entertaining them anymore or having them go nuts and wild in the house. So I know it caused quite a stir online. People saying that, oh, we shouldn't be putting that message out there and everything like that. But look, it's comedy. I get it. People are sensitive to that stuff, but for me, it was harmless. And obviously, all the kids in this skit who were drinking were not really drinking. At least I hope not. And then the musical talent, you had Boys to Men, singing their infamous Mama song, and in tribute of Mother's Day. And I thought it was very sweet and touching. And during the performance, they had the montage of all the cast and crew members' moms and their old photos and all that. And I thought that was very touching and well done. So overall, it was a decent show. Just like the other shows that they've done, the at-home shows, like there were certain skits that hit and certain skits that didn't, and this was definitely another example of that. But overall, it was still entertaining. When it was funny, it was extremely funny, and when it wasn't, it was, maybe a chuckle here and there, and then, kind of carry on and stuff like that. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, YouTube, they have their YouTube channel where they clip out all of their segments, and you could watch the uninterrupted full show on Hulu since they replay it there. So some news that came in this morning. about New York City. I'm sure wherever you are in the country, your own state is already in the early stages or in the middle of planning and phases of reopening things to the public. So it looks like New York City has committed to reopen low risk businesses and recreational activities as of May 15th. This includes such things as landscaping and gardening, outdoor activities like playing tennis. I guess activities that allow the individuals to be distant from each other. So still no basketball and any of those like team contact sports and all that. And the one thing that stood out, drive-in theaters. I think it's perfect timing for that now that the weather is getting better. People do still love movies, and this is probably one of the safest ways to kind of watch a movie out in the public, still being confined in a safe area within the confines of your car. So I don't know how they're going to handle the concessions, but I guess that is yet to be seen. Like I mentioned on Friday, the states and the country are talking about reopening things. Hopefully, it's just done in a smart way, so that we don't repeat the mistakes that we saw other countries move forward with. So that being said, the internet went crazy yesterday. I don't know if you noticed on Twitter or not, but I was getting a lot of retweets and a lot of the top trending tweet I think on Sunday was that Betty White died. Um, Fortunately, Betty White is still alive and kicking and still with us. Unfortunately, it's Betty Wright who died, and I could see how something like that can be easily, confused and misinterpreted. Betty Wright was an R&B singer, and she passed away at the age of 66. Sorry to hear that, and thoughts and prayers go out obviously to her family and loved ones. Carrying on, more unfortunate news. Jerry Stiller, it was announced that he passed away this morning. He was in his 90s. If the name sounds familiar and you don't know who he is the father of Ben Stiller. You were able to see him play the wacky kind of agent in Zoolander. Of course, he was well known also for his appearances on Seinfeld and other TV shows. So I know in the comedy world, he will be greatly missed for his contributions to the art. He was a little bit before my time, so I wasn't so familiar with a lot of his lines of work. But of course, I knew who he was whenever Ben Stiller would bring him up to light and things like that. But passing at the age of 92, I think it was. It sounds to me at least he lived a pretty good life there. So, Paul Vasquez. If that name doesn't sound familiar, then maybe you will remember the infamous meme that came out many years ago about the double rainbow. It was announced that he also passed away today or yesterday at the age of 57. I don't know why you were probably wondering, like, why is this big news? But, at the time, that meme was very viral, and the whole double rainbow and triple rainbow, and then on YouTube it became this popular video, and the Schmo Yo guys turned it into a popular song. If you were to go back to the glory days of YouTube and the creativity there. So just interesting to note that that person who led that has passed and is no longer with us. So again, thoughts and prayers go out to all of their friends and family and loved ones. Also, something that hit the news circuit, whether you're happy to hear about it or not, or maybe you don't care anymore, but Tiger King, apparently there's going to be new content again that's going to planning to go out on Netflix. This time it sounds like they want to kind of uncover and look into the 2003 mauling that kind of caused the shutdown of the Siegfried and Roy show in Vegas. I don't know how they're going to approach it, but basically the article said that the producers of the show kind of want to tackle that topic since it's somewhat related to the topic of the Tiger King. So, not much further details were disclosed about that. But if you are still hankering for more Tiger King content, then you're in luck. Hopefully, in the near future. So that being said, let's move into some of the gaming news that came out, and it's interesting because when I started this podcast, I was always wondering, with this kind of situation that we're in now, what kind of news topics will I be covering? When things were kind of quote unquote normal, there was a lot of news to cover on a daily and weekly basis. When the whole pandemic started, news kind of dried out, and a lot of my fellow, or I should say, the people that I follow on YouTube, they tend to struggle with what to talk about topic wise, and they try to come up with new things to engage and talk about. But I'm finding that there is quite a bit of news coming out recently, and I think that's because, the industries have kind of made peace with what's happening, found ways to really start working on things remotely, and gearing up for the potential and eventual reopening of the world, so to speak. So, a good amount of news just to quickly talk about here. If you watched the podcast with Paul Programs and myself, we did talk about Mass Effect very heavily because he is a huge Mass Effect fan, and there were rumors about the Mass Effect remaster in the works. Now it's kind of rumored that it's not just Mass Effect 1, but it could be the entire trilogy that might be in the works as a remaster. And the reason why this news kind of popped up was, EA kind of announced that they're planning to release 14 new titles for the next fiscal year. They confirmed that 4 of them are guaranteed sports titles. Obviously, EA is, with their Madden and NHL and FIFA series. And then they went on about some mobile games and this and that. But then the last thing that they mentioned was one of the titles was an additional EA HD title. And some people within the industry kind of like poked holes and kind of did their scientific work, just like out of like Homeland. They kind of did their maps and everything and then see what this news could be pointing to. And that's where it kind of came out that, given that Andromeda came out to lackluster kind of reception, and there's been a good amount of time since that release, now is the perfect time to kind of reintroduce the series as a whole, as a remastered edition trilogy. Again, still rumor now. No confirmation has been made, but I'm sure for a lot of you Mass Effect fans, or those who are curious about the series who never even played it, this could be a good opportunity if this comes into fruition. So we'll keep an eye out on that for sure. Bungie has announced that and let me again, I'm having, just when you think you had everything fixed and all set up and ready to go, it doesn't pull up what I needed to. But just real quick here. Okay, there we go. Cool, great. Bungie is talking about fixing the fashion with for Destiny's 4th year. And if you're wondering what does that mean, they want it so that, the rewards for what you do during your playing and during the grinding and all that, that it's aesthetically rewarding for you, and there are other things that you could do with your character to make them stand out amongst everyone else. So they realize that what's happening right now is that, they're not too happy with how things are kind of coming to light as far as where the game is, and they really, really want to fix things to make it more enticing for players and more exciting for players. They don't want it to be so Eververse heavy, and they want it to be able so that players can do what they can on their own to make their characters look great. And I think that's been a topic amongst a lot of players about, certain pieces of armor or ornaments not really looking that great depending on what character build you're playing. So, just a quick rundown of some changes that they've announced. They're saying that players will be able to turn armor into universal ornaments through spending cash or in game activities. Each new season will have an armor set earned outside the season pass and Eververse store. So you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be dependent on making sure that you own the season pass. I, for one, do not own the latest season pass, and I'll get into my thoughts about Destiny or State of Destiny in a little bit. They have aspirational activities like Trials of Osiris and Raids will have at least one special accessory associated with them. Again, is to entice players to really pick and choose what they really want to go for. Trials of Osiris armor sets will be refreshed annually. So that's interesting. The game's next raid will have a new unique armor set attached to it. So that, again, rewarding for people who grind through the raid and do it on multiple occasions, just like myself and my group of friends. Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible matches are getting a new armor between them with different shaders and decals unique to each activity. So looks like they're really focusing on the looks of your characters, and if that's something that sounds appeasing to you, then definitely that could be something that you can look forward to. As for me, if you watched my stream, my Twitch stream earlier today, I was doing what I can to kind of close out the Guardian games. And just because it's the last day and I'm so behind on so many different aspects of completing triumphs, it doesn't look like I'm going to make it. And it's unfortunate too because, for the last 2 weeks, I have tried to grind it. Unfortunately, I've been busy doing other things and, just like working on this show or, my own Twitch stream where I play other games and all that. But I do feel like I still spent a lot of time trying to grind for these things. And it was the grind that kind of took me out of playing Destiny 2 for a while. And then I kind of just got thrown back in because a lot of my friends were playing it, and it's a good game to kind of, stay in tune with your friends, do something that you and your friends can enjoy. We get to just talk about everything and keep in touch while we're playing and online. But one thing I noticed today when I was playing is that I just wasn't having fun, and it sucks because it felt like it was a chore. Like I had to do this and I had to do it because I really want to do my best to get that exotic machine gun that everyone is going to have. And, when you go into the Crucible or when you go into some sort of match, everyone's going to be trying to rock this new piece of weaponry. And, I was playing a lot of Rumble Crucible today, and a lot of these weapons that people had, I never had, because I just don't play enough like they do. And it was really starting to bum me out. And it was really starting to upset me. So I think for now, I am comfortable in saying that I think I am taking a break from Destiny 2 for a long time. I'm sure my friends won't be happy to hear that, or, they may be wanting to run the raid and they always want me to join them on these raids and things like that, but I just don't think I can do it anymore. I'd rather spend all this time to games that I really want to focus on and that I find more enjoyment in. I love games where I can pick up just where I left off without any consequence. It's like I could play this game hardcore for 3 days, and then if I take a break for a week, I can dive right back in and I didn't miss anything. And there are a lot of multiplayer games like that too. Last week I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the first time after a 6-month break, and even though I was playing on a brand new platform starting from scratch, I still found myself enjoying the game all over again because it's not like I missed much. It's like, yes, I have to build my character level up. I have to build the levels up so that I can unlock certain abilities for the forces that I use. But it's not like I'm missing out on this one thing that people had a chance to get. Now they have it, and then I don't have access to it anymore. So I'm kind of more in tune with those type of games. So I think I'm going to be putting a lot of my focus on games like that so that I can just feel good and have fun playing these games and not have to worry about the grinding of specific time periods or events, so that I can ensure that I can get something that will even the playing field if I ever decide to play online with other people. So that's just my thoughts. There are a lot of you out there who love Destiny 2 and still continue to play it, and that's great for you guys. Definitely keep going at it. The community is very strong and dedicated. So, and I'm going to support my friends. And I'm not saying this is it forever, but I think at least for a good time, like I'm pretty done with the series. So moving on. Some games coming out this week. Not a lot. Nothing like huge or that's really quick to mention, but some things that did kind of stand out. Halo 2 is coming back out on PC, this time in Anniversary Collected Edition. Um, Halo 2 back in the day for me was a fantastic game, and it was a game that I really enjoyed playing with my friends, whether or not they enjoyed it or not playing with me. But it was definitely a turning point in, I guess, first person shooters as far as a console goes. And then of course you had your Call of Duties and all that stuff like that, Battlefronts. But for me, Halo 2 was definitely the pinnacle of that time for me. I remember when it came out, we kind of did like the midnight launch, and we were kind of just hammering at it that same evening and for the next several weeks. So it's a fun game. If you've never played it and you're a PC gamer, then I definitely would say, hey, give it a shot. You might like it and dig what it has to offer. Another thing that's coming out this week, at least for the Switch, it's supposed to come out also for the PS4, but it was delayed to May 26th, and that's Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. And for those of you who remember this game back in the day, this is just a pod racing game that came out back in the day. And whatever you say about the sequels, I mean the prequels, whatever your thoughts are on Episode 1, you have to admit though the pod racing segments were kind of entertaining, and it screamed video game, right? So that when you finally had a chance to play that type of mode on a video game console, being in your own pod racer or the pod racer that you saw on screen, it was a lot of fun, and it was a very decent racing game. So I might pick it up just to see like how how it holds up today. It's too bad it didn't coincide with my Star Wars streaming last week, because it would have been nice to reminisce about it last week. But if I do decide to pick it up, I may check it out. And who knows, maybe I'll do a stream about it too, so that you guys can relive my memories of playing the game for the very first time. Um, Another piece of news, E3. So, I mean, it's no shock that E3 decided not to carry on with their annual conference this year, but they are already starting to plan kind of the at home streaming press conferences. So, Kotaku has a good rundown of kind of like what is going to be expected as far as the not E3 2020 press conference schedule might be looking like. So they have like a breakdown of all the different conferences, like Summer Game Fest on May 12th. Guerrilla Collective is having something on June 6th. PC Gaming Show on June 6th. The Steam Game Festival, CD Projekt Red, EA Play Live. Ubisoft move forward. The Microsoft Xbox is in July, but the date is still to be determined. And that's just a handful of things that have been kind of confirmed for now. So I'm pretty sure that this schedule will be updated again once more information goes out there. So keep an eye on that. Again, it's better now more than ever to be able to see these conferences stream online. I know in recent years they've really started to try to do better at doing that, to allow fans like you and I to see these conferences at home instead of being there in person. Because back in the day when I used to go to E3, a lot of these conferences were only seen by attendees when you were at the show. So, and of course, if you were able and lucky enough to get tickets to the event. So, it's nice to see that they're slowly opening things up. Um, and hopefully there'll be some great news to come along with all of that. So definitely stay tuned for the E3 schedule. Let's see what else is I have here on the news. Like I mentioned before, so Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone season 2, it was announced that it's going to debut on June 25th, and a trailer was just released for it, showcasing just some scenes from what to expect for season 2. It looks like it's going to be a lot of the same mysterious storytelling that we saw from the previous season. If you saw one of my past shows, you'll see that I really enjoyed season 1. I did. My only criticism was that I did think it was a little bit too on the nose with the social relevance and kind of the hot takes of what's going on in the world today. But season 2 looks like it's gonna pick things right up from there. And I think just like we saw in season 1, there's going to be a lot of very well-known talent associated with season 2. As you see, Joel McHale is there and all that. So I'll provide a link to the trailer in the description after the show is over, so that you could check the trailer out for yourself. And if you have access to CBS All Access, then you can check it out. I, for one, do not, and I've decided, I don't know, I'm highly doubtful that I will be subscribing to another streaming platform, but we'll see if I have another chance to maybe get another free month subscription. We'll see if that ever comes around. Another big piece of rumor news that kind of came out this morning was that it sounds like it's possible that Amazon and AMC are in discussions for an acquisition. It's been reported in the past, and I've even mentioned it in my podcast before, that AMC is in pretty big trouble right now, financial wise. They were already having issues before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, even more so because of the closures of their movie theaters and, the lack of people being able to go out and, watch movies in their cinemas. So with a big player like Amazon, who has tons of money, I can see them potentially bailing AMC theaters out. But of course, there has to be some sort of reason why they would want to. And if you're someone who really pays attention to movie news and the movie industry, Amazon has their own production studio. So they have already put out several hit movies in recent years. They were the ones who kind of spearheaded a lot of Oscar potential movies, like I think back in the day it was called The Handmaid's Tale, which is like a Korean movie that came out that a lot of people were talking about. And I'm going to just look up real quick the movies that they are known for and they came out with. Again, it seems like oh yes, of course. So Late Night was another movie that came out. I believe it was last year. It had some decent buzz around it. Cold War, they were the ones behind that documentary that had a lot of Oscar buzz. As far as like indie movies are concerned, Brittany Runs a Marathon was something that was big. That had some theatrical release for a limited time. One of my favorite movies that came out in recent years was Beautiful Boy. And if you haven't seen Beautiful Boy, I highly recommend you watch it. It's with Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet, and it's a very touching story about a father and son who's going through rehab and drug problems, and a father just trying to rekindle their relationship as they go through that struggle. So, very heartwarming movie, very tough subject matter, obviously, um, but definitely worth checking out. Other movies that they were really well known for. Um, Let me just pull this up real quick, just so you can have a good rundown here. Um, of course, they did Chirac, which was a very well known Spike Lee movie. Um, the Handmaiden, that was the Korean movie that I mentioned before, and that was very well done. Oh, and the number one movie that you would probably recognize from November 18, 2016 is Manchester by the Sea. That starred, Casey Affleck and I forget who the female actress was. Supporting actress was Michelle Williams. So that got a lot of Oscar buzz around that time, and Casey Affleck, actually won Best Actor for that. And it was a very controversial year too, because of the whole Me Too movement and all that. And there were a lot of allegations about his attitude and behavior in the industry. But that movie alone won Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, Lucas Hedges, and Best Supporting Actress, Michelle Williams, who hardly shows up in the movie, doesn't really have a lot of dialogue in the movie, but there's this one scene that she shares with Casey Affleck where you kind of see right away that, yeah, she is a fantastic actress, because it's such a raw and emotional scene. And it really like struck me when I was watching her portray that character during that time. So a lot of people think it's a slow movie, and a lot of people think it's a movie that is maybe too close to home, and kind of hard to kind of deal with, because people think like they're watching real life. But definitely worth checking out, as far as if you're a fan of drama. It's a really well done movie, and very heart like very emotional and raw emotion. So definitely do check it out. Moving on to other news, I mentioned last week Josh Gad did this great reunion show with the cast of Goonies. So, since that was so popular and it got a lot of attention, it looks like he's doing a second episode where this time he will be reuniting the cast of Back to the Future. So, I am a huge fan of the Back to the Future franchise, and I have fond memories of that movie series. I remember, and I think I even mentioned it in one of my earlier podcasts, where I still remember when I was a kid, going to my local theaters and being able to catch part two and three, just by myself. And just really falling in love with that movie series as a whole. So I'm sure you're going to see Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox and Elizabeth Shue kind of just like coming back and reuniting. My biggest question, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to it, is whether or not they'll get Crispin Glover to appear. He's made it very well known that he is not happy with how himself as an actor was handled after the first movie, moving into the sequels. So he had a lot of issues with the directors and producers. I do think he was asking for more money, but I think it was a little bit more than that from his standpoint. So they kind of did something where they kind of just hired somebody else to kind of look like him, and that definitely didn't go well with him. So I am in recent interviews that I've seen him on. The mention of Back to the Future kind of riles him up big time, and he goes into like little rants here and there, and then he rather just not talk about it in general. So highly doubt he's going to make it to the reunion show, but if Josh Gad makes it happen, then Josh Gad is an amazing fellow. So we'll see what happens. And then lastly, in more entertainment type news, San Diego Comic Con announced that Comic Con 2020 summer at home event will be in the works. Again, just like everyone else, anyone that had a conference, convention, or whatever the case is trying to see what they can do to move things online. No specific event details were released or surfaced, but more to come on that front. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to catch some special online events, whether or not it's, industry talks or, studio interviews and things like that. And hopefully maybe some of the teaser trailers or teaser clips for upcoming movies will be shared with us online, because more often than not, they usually tend to keep those stuff behind closed doors. So it'll be nice to kind of get access to all of that stuff. Um, I do have a couple of bits of news from Japan to share. Some things that I found kind of interesting on my own. Um, One thing that it actually involves the Summer Olympics. So, since the cancellation of this year's Olympics, a lot of people in Japan, especially people um, in in Japan and involved with actually like the ceremony itself, or those who are kind of tied to merchandise or sponsorships, right? So a lot of these people were kind of like worried and concerned, like what's going to happen with merchandise and souvenirs, and everything is branded 2020. Now they're going to have to move forward and change everything to 2021, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. But now they're saying that they're hoping that because it's such a significant postponement, that it will actually drive the 2020 merchandise. It will drive the interest up because it might be seen and sought after as collector's items. So they are hoping that anything that is branded Olympics 2020, people will go out there and start snatching these things up, because it's such a significant postponement in Olympic history. Especially if, let's say, 2021 comes around and this pandemic is still a problem. If that's the case, then even more so, these pieces of merchandise will be highly sought after, because I think it even mentions here in the article that there are only Olympics that were only canceled during war years, which was 1916, 1940, and 1944. But obviously never canceled because of a virus or a pandemic. So it is an interesting part of history, and I'm pretty sure collectors, and in Japan, if there are a lot of collectors about a lot of different things. Olympic merchandise is definitely going to be highly sought after. So I thought that was really interesting news there. Again, I'll provide a link in the description, just like with anything else that is kind of interesting. I'll provide it in the description so that you can follow up and read it on your own, to see if, in case I missed anything. Another piece of news that I found very interesting was the manga Golgo 13 will take its first hiatus in its 51-year history. If you're not familiar with the manga series, it's a very well-known manga series, more for the older generation. I happen to be a big fan of this, and a lot of my friends make fun of me because they said, "Oh, my dad reads that manga," or "My dad loved that manga." I just love the character, and it pretty much revolves around a sniper assassin expert who used to be former military, this and that, and he's always hired to go on hits and work with different agencies and groups of people. But to be around for 51 years and still have its original creator even still attached to it, Takao Saito, who's 83 years old and still keeping this series going. But yeah, because of the pandemic and because of fears of production and keeping people in places, especially the factories and in the manga studio, it will take a break. And it's the first time in 51 years that it's going to be doing such a thing. So we're not sure when it's going to be resumed, but I guess they will make that decision when they feel more that the situation in Japan is comfortable enough for them to restart things all over again. So again, another piece of news from Japan that I found very interesting that hopefully you guys will too. And go ahead and cover that if you want to have more information on that specific topic. Link will be in the description to follow. Um, so some of the main topics I really did want to cover today involve around three different things. One of which is so today in Shanghai Disneyland decided it reopened for the first time ever since the pandemic happened. It's very interesting news because obviously everything has been closed down during this whole time. It's been reported that Disney has lost so much money because of the closures of all of their theme parks. And no one really knew or had a good timeline as to when it would be possible for the Disneyland parks to or Disney World parks to open all over again. Um, but today they opened up to the public in Shanghai again for the first time. Tickets actually went on sale on Friday, and in minutes sold out immediately for Monday, and sold out on other days of this week as well. You could tell people are clamoring to get back to the Disneyland parks and Disney parks and experience all the fun rides and all the food and everything like that. They are, from what I hear, they are using this opening of Shanghai Disneyland to kind of test and judge on how they're going to possibly roll out the phases of reopening the other parks around the world. So, Disneyland here in the States and Disney World here in the States in Florida, they are going to be paying very close attention on how the measures that they're taking to make sure that the reopening of Shanghai Disneyland goes can translate very well here in the States. And from what I've read in an article that was posted, um, I am. Give me 1 second here. I had the article open here, and then it went away. But here we go. So it was from NPR, and basically some of the guidelines that they're keeping a track on and kind of ensuring that people who get into the park are safe and remain safe is that they're not allowing any selfies with Disney characters, so no photo opportunities, which is unfortunate because I think that's one of the draws of people who go to the Disney parks. They enjoy doing that, especially those who are very into the Disney nostalgia and dress up as characters and things like that. So they won't be able to do any of that right now. Hand sanitizers will be widely deployed and a lot of cleaning measures will be in place. But before anyone can enter the park, visitors will also need to prove that they don't pose any kind of risk. So they will be going through temperature screenings, and everyone will have their own QR code. It will reflect green or red. And green meaning you're good to go, red meaning, you probably won't be allowed in. And everything is going to be tracked on your phone. So, and I guess it will also kind of coincide with your recent medical history and travel history. So, these are some of the steps that they're taking to ensure that all the attendees are safe, all the attendees that are allowed in are healthy. So we'll see if this is something that's going to carry on to the parks, the rest of the parks around the world. But Shanghai Disney is one of those. I'm actually a big Disney fan, believe it or not. I enjoy going to Disney World and Disneyland, and I was really hoping, this year. Because Star Wars Celebration was going to be in August in Anaheim, California, and me and some friends, we were planning to go there and obviously go to Disneyland because we wanted to visit the new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge attraction and area of the park. So we were kind of bummed out when all of this happened. Obviously, it doesn't look like Celebration is going to happen this year. It doesn't look like, at least for the time being, or at least by August, it might be highly unlikely that Disneyland will reopen in that time. But I'm a fan of going to the parks. Shanghai Disney is the one thing I really want to try out is that they have this Tron Light Cycle roller coaster ride that is only available at Shanghai and Disney. So I was always really jealous when I was seeing the footage of it. It looks pretty cool, but I did hear that they are planning on bringing that ride to the States. I don't know if that's going to be in Disney World or Disneyland, but we'll see. But yeah, so at least people in Shanghai get to enjoy Disney. I saw some recent pictures of the opening, and people there are kind of half and half. Some in mass, some aren't in mass. A lot of the eateries are kind of empty, or you see people really distancing themselves. So it's interesting. Obviously, people are being cautious, or at least the workers at Disney are enforcing these rules in place so that people can remain safe in the park. So, we'll see what happens. And, if things go well, maybe, we can see the openings of Disney, here in the States, or maybe not. But, I think we should just stay safe, be cautious about it, and, really roll out a special plan for that. Now, another big piece of news that hit, actually it hit on Friday, and I was thinking about it all weekend, and basically that's, Boba Fett will be in the Mandalorian season 2, and that really threw me like in a loop, for a loop, because I never thought we would see Boba Fett return in any screen version, whether it be movies, TVs, or whatever the case is. There were a lot of rumors and talks about maybe possibly bringing Boba Fett back out, but then you would have to explain, how did he survive his demise in Return of the Jedi? How did he escape the Sarlacc pit? I know there have been like fan fiction, and there have been like comic books that kind of covered the possibilities of this happening, but they did cast Temuera Morrison, who played kind of the Jango Fett clone in the prequels, to come back and play Boba Fett. Basically, if you remember the prequels, he was the clone, or the body and person that was used to clone the clone army, and Jango Fett was a clone in itself, and Boba was his own little tiny kid clone, who eventually becomes Boba Fett in the future. So, and in the article from the Hollywood Reporter, it's one of those interesting things where they actually mentioned that Boba Fett appeared in season 1. And if you remember the episode where the Mandalorian teamed up with the Bobby Cannavale character, I forget his name, but he was kind of annoying on the show. Always like, "Hey, Mando," and all that kind of stuff like that. They were hunting this person in a bounty, and who looked like got shot and killed and was left in the desert. And then one of the last scenes we see in that episode, we see two boots walking towards the body and looking at the body, and apparently those were the boots of Boba Fett. So it's interesting that they would reveal that. It's interesting that they would tell us this so early, before season 2 comes out. Kind of the same feeling I had too when they mentioned that the potential of Ahsoka Tano appearing in season 2, and who might be played by Rosario Dawson. These are kind of the things that I wish would just be secret, because it would be nice to watch this series and then be amazingly surprised, like, oh my gosh, like Ahsoka is there, or is that Boba Fett? So it does, in my opinion, kind of suck that we are not left with the element of surprise, and we are being told this piece of news so early on. So it does kind of bum me out a little bit, but it is still interesting, and I'm still curious to see how it's going to play out. According to the article, that here, it's only going to be a small role, with little screen time in season two. But we'll see. I've heard rumors also that this could be a small role now, but Boba Fett could potentially play a bigger role in season three. So we'll see. Again, I was already looking forward to the Mandalorian season two, as I'm sure a lot of you are, but now even more so now that they're bringing some of the beloved characters into the mix with Ahsoka and Boba. So we'll see how that plays out. That's definitely going to be interesting stuff. Um, Last piece of news for today. And as I'm going through the chat, I want to just thank Yuki NYC for chiming in there. Sega Saturn. So today marks the 25th anniversary of the Sega Saturn. It was one of the uh, last remaining Sega hardware releases that came out in the video game market. It was this, and then the Dreamcast, and then that's when Sega pretty much decided to no longer produce hardware to compete with the likes of Sony and Nintendo. And the Sega Saturn was pretty much the first foray into a disc-based game system. I'm not counting the Sega CD because the Sega CD was obviously an attachment. This was its standalone disc-based system. And in Japan, it was very popular. And then in the States, it was kind of so-so. I feel like it had a lot of struggles in competing with, PlayStation and Nintendo. A lot of the games that I remember playing during the time I had a Sega Saturn were a lot of imports, to be honest with you. I felt like the games that people were really interested in playing, they imported from Japan. I remember really going nuts for like Radiant Silvergun and what's the other one? Oh yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons collection. Oh man, I remember when that was announced and I was able to import that. I was so looking forward to playing it, and it's such a great collection of games that pretty much mimicked what I played in the arcade when I first played those games. But other things that I wrote down here, Magic Knight Rayearth, the Elevator Action Returns game that came from Japan. I mean, there were a lot, and these are just a few, but there were so many other titles in Japan that a lot of people went nuts for. Sakura Wars, now recently just released for the PS4. When they made their Saturn release, that was something that was highly sought after. But here in the States, some of the games that really stood out were more like the 2D fighting games, like the X-Men versus Street Fighter and Street Fighter Alpha and Darkstalkers. Like those ports on the Saturn were probably the best ports of these games I've ever seen. The speed was there, the voices, the vibrant colors. The Saturn controller really played well with the 6-button layout configuration. So a lot of these titles were like prime for this type of system. I remember Burning Rangers was another title that I really was happy to pick up and was fun to play with at the time. Of course, I think the most popular title here that was released in the States was Nights into Dreams. That was something that was like kind of like a legacy title for the Saturn, and people really enjoyed and loved that game, and even so much so that they're still clamoring for a remake or a sequel to it. And honorable mention goes out to Die Hard Arcade, only because I personally just have fond memories of that game. Because one, I never thought I would see a Die Hard video game, and two, it was somewhat fun. I had fun playing it in the arcade actually, and then when it came out onto consoles, it was something fun just to have at home and mess around with. I think the downfall really of the Saturn was just the way they handled a lot of their graphics. A lot of things were very pixelated, and then when you compared the quality between the Saturn to the likes of like PlayStation, you could see like PlayStation kind of like ruled over them as far as quality is concerned. Sega was always well known for how fast it processed things and the speed of things. So anything that was related to, quickness or speed, just like the fighting games I mentioned, they excelled in. And I think anything that was more 2D or cell shaded type of games worked really well on the system. But if there's one thing that I will always cherish and remember about the Sega Saturn is that it introduced us to, for me, the best and most loved video game mascot, and that is Segata Sanshiro. And if you are not familiar with who Segata Sanshiro is, then allow me to kind of introduce you to, in my mind, the greatness of this character. I'm gonna play some clips here, and I don't know if it's gonna be a good idea for me to actually play audio, because we all know that, well, at least I know very well that YouTube has been very, very strict with a lot of their copyright claims and everything like that. But Segata Sanshiro was basically a mascot that was created by the Sega marketing team to really help promote the Sega Saturn. And basically what he would do is that he would go around and beat people up for not playing Sega Saturn games. It was once rumored that this was actually portrayed by the actual CEO of Sega, but it's not true. He's actually just an actor, famous actor in Japan. But basically, as you could see here, he would just go around and start beating people up, promoting the Sega Saturn. And they did release a Segata Sanshiro video game, which was just not a great game, but it allowed you to actually unlock a lot of these famous commercials that they made of him. As you could see, the ridiculousness of all the different antics that he found himself in, or put himself in, I should say. But that title alone, when I was able to buy it and play with it, it's a lot of these like little silly puzzle games and all that. But I played so hard just to ensure that I can unlock all of these commercials, because this was during the time when we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have great online access to the archive of commercials and videos. But being able to do it and play it on the console was amazing and fantastic. And he went on to not only help promote the Sega Saturn, but he also helped promote the Dreamcast when it first launched in the very early beginnings. They even had kind of like the death of Segata, where he kind of like not passed the torch, but it was like the end of his time, because he did come from a different era in gaming. So his last feat was that he actually saved the Sega headquarters building in Tokyo by a missile, by jumping in front of the missile, keeping it at bay, and then riding it out into space where he blew up. And that is footage of the commercial you could find online, and pretty much probably within this video compilation here. So if you want to enjoy the wackiness and silliness of Segata Sanshiro, I will put the link in the description, and please do yourself a favor if you're a fan of just wackiness, especially things from Japan, and when it's tied to a video game, please by all means check this out. I think this one particular clip here is my favorite, so I'm going to see if I can play some of the audio from here, because it's definitely worth listening to. Let's see. Of course, my mouse is not behaving. Oh, wait. Okay. Let me just make sure I go here. Okay. Let's watch this, because Even the song is amazing.
真面目に遊ばぬ奴らには体で覚えさせるぞ背がたさんしろ背がたさんしろ背がさんたんしろとや
Oh god, that just brings back so much memories. It's just hilarious. Yeah. So that's Segata Sanshiro for you. But yeah, please do yourself a favor, check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's silly wackiness that you would expect from Japan, especially during that time. So that being said, that's the show. That's the hour. So let's play this music. So thank you guys again for another great show. Thank you for joining me here on this Monday evening. If you're watching on the replay, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any feedback for me, any questions or any topics you want me to cover in the next show, please do so. Leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to read them. Next show will be on Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I am doing my live video game streams. I did one today. My next one will be on Wednesday at 12 p.m. 12 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. Then after my live show on Friday, I'm planning to do it around 5 p.m.-ish. We'll keep it kind of more casual. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 on Wednesday, and Friday going back to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So definitely do stop by, chat, and let's just have some fun. Until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, be kind to one another, wash your hands, wear a mask, and just have a good week, all right? Make it a memorable one. Until next time, I'll see you. Thanks.